Welcome everybody. This is a special video where we will do a 15-minute unboxing of ServiceNow Studio. Jerry and Martin will do the unboxing and I will be the hands-on keyboard, or I will move the mouse around where they tell me to go. For those of you who don't know us, Jerry is an experienced product owner, a rising star, and Martin is of course the certified technical architect. So if you haven't read his articles and his technical insight, uh, please reach out to him and read those things. And I am Willem, a certified master architect, which allows me to move the keyboard and mouse around in this session.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction, William. By the way, you have a new look. Looks pretty good. Is it something coming from the New Year resolutions, or is it something that you decided previously?
Well, I did it very sneakily. After World Forum, I was on stage, and that was the first time the day before that I stopped shaving. So I'm trying out. Leave in the comments if you like it.
Beautiful. Do you have a due date for the shave? Maybe in post knowledge or something?
Exactly. Yeah, I think if this video gets 1,000 likes, then I will do a curly mustache or something. And what we need to do there is, of course, search for Studio.
And here maybe a little bit of clarification because we have a bunch of studios. We have App Engine Studio, which was introduced years ago. Then we have Creator Studio, which is designed to help you easily create low code or no code solution for your catalog. And now what we're going to present today is called actually ServiceNow Studio, which is the one-stop shop for the pro coders, the people who are digging deeper into the platform, developing flows, different types of codes and all that stuff. And what we also know is that it actually incorporates all of the previous tools that we have, the flow designer, the workflow designer, the old, what was the name of it? The old studio, all in a single pane of glass. So today we are going to open it for the first time and see what we will find inside.
Yeah.
I mean, one question I
don't
wanted to
forget
ask
also
William and
workflow.
Martin, is there a particular patch or version that would need to be on for the instance to be able to have Creator Studio on?
I think it was introduced for all new instances with the Xanadu release. Not sure for the old instances if this needs to be installed as a plugin from the store, or it comes automatically after the upgrade. Maybe William, you know.
Let's
Yeah,
find
we can. I
out.
mean, I think William can just check in his. I mean, just stats.do, check on what the version instance is. I mean, it's Xanadu, isn't it? My understanding is Xanadu, and then we can just double check on the patch, just so we know in terms of what patch we're on at the moment, to know if anyone else kind of looks at their own PDI on able to see the ServiceNow Studio. So it looks like patch 3.
Yeah, patch 3.
Cool. Okay. Thank you, William.
Let me check that.
Right. Let's go and do this unboxing. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So Studio, we know from Martin that we have multiple studios, and I would say, Martin, ServiceNow Studio, you said it's for pro coders, but it also includes the flow designer, right? Or the flow.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Yeah, but it's not specifically designed like, for example, the Creator Studio for building catalogs and all that stuff. This is the single place for no coders and pro coders. Let's say it like that.
Yeah.
And to be honest, with the flow designer, you can also go deep with the pro code if you wish.
Yeah. Okay, I've opened the screen, and maybe for you, what's your first reaction if you see this? What stands out to you?
Looks like a pretty clean home screen. A little bit. The first thing that I would do is go on the left hand side and click all these buttons. But before that, the one thing that is putting the pin in my eyes is this big tools button in the middle of the screen. So maybe the first thing that I would do is go ahead and click on the tools to see what tools we have inside.
Okay. Before we do that, Jerry, maybe what stands out for you?
Yeah, for me, from a perspective of someone that doesn't really do much development, and if I'm going into it, what I'm going to be looking at, I mean, like I said, the UI is pretty clean. I quite like it. It's quite simple. You've got obviously a search box as well, but for me, my eyes is kind of going to more towards the create. So at the top right, you've got the create button. So that's something that's drawing my eye from a non-dev perspective.
Yeah, and the studio, we have the Creator Studio where we create apps, but we now have ServiceNow Studio where we also have these two create buttons, right? So I would say this is also for the creators, but that's the different studio, right? That's the Creator Studio. Here it's indeed all about creation. Let's start first with where Martin said, hey, he wanted to click the tools, and maybe we can circle back, Jerry. Then
Yeah,
after
of
that,
course.
we can click create, or we can find our way around. So if I click tools, you see here.
Here we go. What we mentioned, we have all of the tools that we have inside ServiceNow that allow us to build different things. We have the decision builder, which is the way to build your decision logic based on the decision tables, something that helps the developers to avoid the multiple if-else statements inside the flow or inside the code. And I really like the decision builder and then the decision tables that have been introduced 2 or 3 versions back. Then we have the flow designer, the playbooks, so basically all of the low-code options. Then we have another builder, the table builder, which is a new way to create tables easily. And if you scroll down a little bit, what else? Integration hub. Beautiful. Maybe here we have some access to the spokes. And then we have something that unfortunately I have not touched for 7 years now, the mobile builder. I'm still scared to get inside.
Why is that, Martin? Just as I'm curious, when you're saying you're quite
Well,
scared, is it because
two reasons. First of all, because it requires some time, so it's not that straightforward as the other ServiceNow development that you can have. It requires some knowledge on the mobile applications. But maybe another reason is that I have never had a customer needing a mobile application. So if I have had a customer, maybe I would go ahead and learn how to do it. Maybe this will happen this year in 2025 that we're just starting. I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah, I
thank you,
think
Martin. That makes sense.
the mobile app can be very powerful, right? So we have multiple customers that use it, and I think you're right, Martin. The mobile app is continuously developing and expanding, and I think for things like approval, so it's good that it's here. At the quick approvals, you get a notification, you can quickly interact. I think it's good that it's here. And then we have the user interface, right? And maybe going back to the top, Jerry.
I was just gonna maybe still be on the tools documentation page. What I've noticed under each of the blocks, and it's really good in terms of it's structured in a way where you've got different sections like automation, data, but each of the cards you've got a documentation and a community. But I noticed that they're grayed out, and I'm just wondering whether that's still going to be linked to that. But if you do scroll down to some of the cards below, for example, like Table Builder, they are obviously are available for, I suppose, to understand more about that functionality, so documentation and also the community side as well.
Yeah, I mean, very fair point, Jerry. This is a little thing, not that you cannot go open a new tab and search for Table Builder, but if you have a quick link, this is actually building on the better user experience that you are getting with the ServiceNow Studio.
Yeah, that's really, really good. So rather than having to open another tab or trying to look for it, but it's already there for you. Yeah.
And in terms of the grouping, Jerry, you mentioned it's grouped. Does that make sense to you? Are these tools that you know that you as a product owner should know, and in what sense do you know it?
I think for me, looking at those sections like automation, and it's got a little text below just explain what that means. I think that's a really good way, rather than sometimes having to kind of look for the tools. But no, this for me, this lays it out to say, right, all in one page of all the different tools that are available for the studio.
Yeah, yeah, and for me, it's if I zoom out a bit as an architect, the grouping, it really depends on preference. So maybe after we switch also back to Martin, um, where in a design, I would first start by designing, looking at the data that we need before the automation. But here, the first thing is automation. So that's maybe a matter of preference, and we cannot switch the order.
Mm.
But that, to me, would be maybe reverse. And what I also noticed, if you scroll down the user interface, sort of what some people call the front end, and here the top few ones, automation and data and integration, is usually considered backend. So they put backend on top and then the front end. Whereas I can imagine if you're a front end developer, you would prefer that other one to have that on top, right? Of course, we know
Well,
that you can quickly scroll down, and if you know it's there, it's there. But that's something that I noticed, that they grouped backend and then front end. And
yeah, actually,
yeah, go ahead.
actually, what I see here is that this is a just a simple alphabetical sort of the things. So the groups make sense. Automation, data, integrations, and the front end. These are basically the components of each and every application that you're going to develop. The grouping is fine. The sort and the ordering, I agree with you that it is not fine. And again, from the perspective of a technical architect, I would agree with you. I would start with the data, then I would start with the automation, the backend, then the integrations, and at the end, the user interface. But yeah, as you mentioned, different people, different preferences. Maybe at some point in the future, they will give us the option to reorder the things or regroup them to better suit the way that we develop applications.
Okay. What if we switch now to what Jerry said? Are we ready for the create button, or do we want to inspect some other things first?
I'm also
Yeah,
curious about the just a second,
deployment. Yeah,
Jerry.
I was going to
Yeah, I'm
say
curious for
deployment.
for the deployment. This is something that we as developers in on the ServiceNow ecosystem, but also having previous experience as developers in the purely uh, applications that are developed by code without any UI or without a platform and all that stuff. We are curious about the deployment, the CI/CD stuff, and all that. This integration with GitHub. This is something that is a known issue with ServiceNow. We are still looking for a way to better integrate our ServiceNow development with the source control systems. So
Mhm.
maybe they have introduced something new here. Let's check it out.
Okay with you, Jerry?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Then I click the deployment.
And the good old update sets are here.
Well, that's good. I
Yeah,
mean, that's good that they put update sets all in one place rather than having to go back into the previous view and then go to normally like the application navigator and then update sets. So yeah, that's pretty cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Still, this actually incorporates the idea of the workflow studio to have every single thing on a single place. So
Yeah.
we have the update sets and we have the applications, which is another way of development of in ServiceNow to deploy the applications to the company repository, and then from the upper instances pull it from the company repository again. So we hope to see source code integration in here in the future, but unfortunately, it's not here right now.
Okay. Then, Martin, I also, since we're still not ready for the create button, you also mentioned something, these icons, right? That you want to click those. Shall we start with
Yeah,
that, or
Ju-
are we indeed ready for create? No, first this one.
let's do this.
So we
First
have
one
the
is the
apps
apps.
selected. I can click on file categories. Let's see what that loads.
Ooh, nice.
What's your first?
This looks like
Nice.
the old studio. Like, if you remember, in the old studio we have the components grouped in a similar way, but here it's way cleaner, way easier to grasp and to access. At least from my perspective, comparing to the old studio.
Yeah, and what would we expect then in automation? Because that's the same heading as we saw in tools. Are we expecting these things, or
Yes,
I hope so.
I
Yeah.
expect to see
Oh, way more.
email templates, flows,
so
playbooks,
these are
subflows. Yeah,
the actions, the flows. These are of course the interfaces that we saw, the tools to create these. I would say assets, or they call them file categories. So the decision table, that's indeed from the decision builder. Actions are for the flow designer. Um, Playbooks from the playbook, subflows, etc. So you can see it's a bit more, but they all link to these interfaces. Then we see something new. It's called client development, because here we had user interface, mobile integrations, data, and automation. What are we expecting in client development? Or, and not to make it too hard on you, this is what shows up. And this is, I think, a bit more technical, Martin. So I'm looking more at
yes, yes,
if you
yeah,
know it.
it is. So
Okay, go ahead, Martin.
all of the things that we had in the traditional ServiceNow development, like UI scripts, UI policies, client scales, but we also have the files that are actually part of the new Next Experience framework. The things that are building the workspaces, like the data lookup definitions, client extensions points, all that stuff. I'm not a UI builder expert, but I guess that these are the components that are building the workspaces. Maybe you can confirm or say something else,
Yeah,
Willem.
that makes sense. So indeed, client development, they gathered all, as Martin, you said in the beginning, they gathered all those different interfaces, different components into one sort of bucket. And that also allows them to do, for the next one, is the content. So they separate sort of development from that content. And Jerry, I'm looking at you for this. What do you think is the benefit of having this a bit more, of course, in one interface, so integrated, but then as a separate file category?
What, in terms of the way it's laid out? Is that what you mean, William?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just for me, from my perspective, I suppose it's more from a technical, developer or technical perspective. But that, I mean, it's laid out in a way that things are grouped. So again, that's just only from my kind of my perspective on what I'm looking at the moment.
Yeah.
What I think the sentence that Willem is looking for is ease of access, because usually in the traditional development, if you want to embed an image or some static content, you need to go ahead into the attachments file table, find the sysid, copy the sysid, paste it, and all that stuff. And I guess with this grouping here, we have a quick access to these files, and the keyword here is ease of access. And maybe a proposal here, Willem. I wouldn't go through each and every category. Maybe let's see the less common ticks, like what I'm curious to see what we have in natural language understanding, for example.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's we're unboxing, so anything that pops out is a good one, Martin.
Yeah, and here we have the
Mhm.
NLU models.
Yeah.
So again, ease of access. We have access to the NLU models. We can create them. We can train them, I guess. I don't know. Maybe it's
Yeah.
a
I will
topic
just
for
keep
another video. But yeah, again, everything in a single place is the big sentence for me with this unboxing.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, the other folder that I think the folder I was looking, I was going to say other folder, but the folder of other, if you go back, William,
Mhm.
at the very bottom, I'm quite intrigued to see what's in there.
The other, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So this is indeed order, right? From the CMDB to access roles, to the action parameters, the action steps. This is quite, it even has a show more. This is only the A entries, AI.
Oh, AI search.
Yeah, so this is indeed, and I can imagine, as you also mentioned, that in newer versions, maybe they find a specific, more specific category for this.
Yeah, but
yeah,
I think the reasons for these things to be listed here is that they are not big enough for a separate category, but they also do not fit in any of the other categories or do not fit in a single category. So maybe this is the reasoning behind. At least this is my explanation.
Yeah. And let's say, I'm curious if that works, right? If you use the filter list and I type in business rule, yeah, you can see, okay, business rules are considered server development. Now, that's not new to us, but it might even help you figure out, hey, is a business rule client side or server side? No, by just using this the file category we already know, server development.
Let's see what will happen if you click on business rules. Actually, on the first result that was returned. So here we are getting a list of all business rules on the instance. Basically, a list view of the syscript table.
Yeah, you can see here, syscript is the technical table name. So if you go to the business rules table in the classic UI, you would see similar results, and then we can filter this as well. Okay, so that's the file categories. Also looking at the time, we can make our own bookmarks. Now that's something we know from ServiceNow. You hover over it, click, and it bookmarks it, and we can find it back here.
That's good.
Yeah. Menu.
And it is grouped again here. This is good. It's grouped in the bookmarks as well, which is a good thing.
Yeah. And similar, we've seen on the classic UI, in the more modern UI as well, the recent. So that's here. So you see a bit of different components, of course, differently structured. And what I also noticed, if I close this again, and go back to that main pane, let me go home. Then we have, one second, if I go here, we have 3 create options, right? We saw here, create, then we see here, create, and then we see here, create. So I thought at first sight it was 2, but this plus icon is also create. Which one would you select?
I'll select the top right with a big create button with an arrow drop down.
Yeah, that got your attention, right? You mentioned it before, the top right one. That's okay, let's click that one. Okay. Then we have the 2 options. So maybe, Martin, you probably know the answer, so that's why I'm asking Jerry. What do you think the difference is between an app and a file?
Is that to me, William?
Yeah.
So for me, an app will be obviously an application, and a file. I'm not too sure what a file would be actually, but I know an app like App Engine Studio would create an app, but a file, I'm not too sure.
And I'm opening this app because we have the file categories. I'm expecting any of these things, right?
Okay.
Sort of a component of an app. So I like I think Martin is right here. It's also probably alphabetical, but here I like the order that the app is sort of the bigger element, the full application, and a file can be a single component of an app. So let's
quite
start
interested as well, William. You know, with the other create, you've got the create plus and another create. Do they also give you those 2 options as well?
I believe this will be context aware. So if you are on the files and click the plus, it's going to create a file. If you're on the apps and click on the plus, it's going to create an application. This is at least my expectation.
Okay, so you
think
context dependent. So if I'm now in the file categories, and I click plus, you say it creates a file. Okay,
Yeah,
that
let's do
doesn't
this.
make sense to me. But here you can
No.
see, yeah, it has the
Ah,
same.
Okay.
No, they kept it consistent. So no matter where you click, you have the two options, and you have to select. And I think also the context dependency, Martin, that you suggested might be, I think, sort of logical. But I think this is also the safe one. Always prompting an additional. It's an additional click, but it does make sense. And here we can also
Yeah,
create
sure.
that. And also looking at the time, I think, Martin, you referenced the classic app engine before. These are the same steps, right? So
Yeah.
I think this is a nice short introduction of us unboxing the app. Um,
Maybe a few words of what you personally have seen during the unboxing. How would you summarize the whole thing in a single sentence? What's the benefit of what do you see on the from ServiceNow Studio that was not present in the past? Do you like it? Do you not? And why?
and you're asking all of us,
All of
Martin?
you, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, maybe Jerry, starting with you.
I think for me, just from like like you mentioned before, there were so many different studios, like App Engine Studio, Creator Studio. For me, it's having that unification, so it's all in one place. You can access all the different file categories that we've went through as well. So even if I wanted to learn this, at least then I know what is consistent and what I can access through the studio. So that's just from my perspective.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I'm I'm always making jokes that as an architect, you always see what we call the bears on the road, right? You look at it, things a bit more critical, to prevent, of course, bad things happening in the future. And if I look at this critical, and maybe that's also my Dutch nature, um, but I think that's where we started off. It's again another attempt of having a clear interface. And I think the next couple of months, years of development will show, I think, the true value. Because if this is something adopted by the community, further developed, it can be very powerful. But we've also seen with the, as Martin mentioned, the previous studio versions, with Creator Studio, with App Engine Studio, it can also add a lot of confusion because it's another a different UI. So I'm skeptical but optimistic, if I'm honest.
Well, my opinion is a little bit different because, as we mentioned, the different studios that we had in the past were with some specific idea behind. While this one is incorporating all of the tools that we have in a single place, and this is quite logical because ServiceNow started 20 years ago. Then the studio was introduced, then the flow designer, then the workflow. All of them have been developed or acquired from different companies, and quite logically, they do not look and feel the same. So the people who have spent a lot of time on the platform are used to it, but people coming fresh in the ecosystem seem to be quite confused between the studio, the workflow editor, the flow
Mm.
designer, the playbooks, all that bunch of different interfaces. And I think that the ServiceNow Studio was designed to solve this issue, to give the developers a single place where they can go and just do the development rather than wrapping their head around the different tools that we have in the system. So um, my how to say my mindset is almost similar to William's,
Mhm.
but I'm only optimistic. I'm not skeptical.
Okay, that's good. That's also how I know you, and Martin, you're always optimistic.
Beautiful. So
Okay,
thank you for watching and see you on the next one.
Thank you, everyone.
thanks. Bye.